Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to jump right in and unpack a massive global mystery that is quite literally hiding right under our noses. We're talking about the invisible forces quietly but fundamentally shaping the global economy. So, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, grab your morning coffee, and somehow discover that the company you work for, the actual place that signs your paychecks, is owned by a highly unexpected entity. Crazy, right? But let's take it a step further. Think about the airport you fly out of for vacation, or the tech sitting in your pocket right now. What about the skyline of major commercial buildings right in the center of your city? Have you ever stopped to ask, who actually owns all of that? Well, what if the answer to literally all of those questions was a foreign government? I know, it sounds exactly like the plot of some tense political thriller. But here's the thing, this isn't fiction. This is our current reality. And this massive global takeover, it's not happening through invading armies or dramatic, highly publicized elections. No, it is happening quietly, purely through investments. All right, let's dive into section 1, the invisible investors. Now, usually when we picture a mega investor, our brains immediately go to someone like Warren Buffett, right? Or maybe some ruthless Wall Street firm. But the reality is actually far different. Some of the absolutely most powerful financial entities on the planet aren't individuals, and they aren't private firms. They are entire governments, acting as these singular, massive financial powerhouses. And they're doing this on a scale that is honestly almost impossible for the human brain to fully comprehend. We aren't talking about millions here. We aren't even talking about billions. These government entities manage trillions of dollars. Trillions with a T. It is a completely mind-bending amount of capital. And yet, wild as it is, most people have never even heard of the financial vehicles they use to actually manage all that cash. Which brings us to section 2, the ultimate piggy bank. So how exactly does a country manage trillions of dollars? Well, they use what are called sovereign wealth funds. Basically, when nations generate massive capital windfalls, we're talking huge profits from oil, gas, minerals, or just massive trade surpluses, they don't just blow it on their immediate budget. Instead, they pull it into a giant national reserve. It's kind of like a mega savings account. But instead of just sitting there gathering dust, this capital is aggressively invested all over the world. Now, what's really interesting about this is the core motivation behind it. It's based on a pretty sobering reality. Natural resources are totally finite. Oil wells eventually run dry, and commodity prices can swing wildly from year to year. So sovereign wealth funds basically exist to transform that temporary extraction wealth into permanent, lasting financial wealth. It's an absolutely brilliant strategy, and it's often described perfectly by this one concept, turning oil into ownership. Think about it. Rather than spending a massive national bonus on immediate fleeting expenses, these governments are out there aggressively buying up stocks, real estate, infrastructure, and big tech companies worldwide. They're literally buying a stake in the global economy to secure their own country's future growth. Let's move on to section 3, funding your everyday life. Now, I know this can all sound like some abstract macroeconomic theory, but this actually impacts your living room. Seriously, a decision made on a foreign fund manager's desk, thousands and thousands of miles away, flows directly into global infrastructure and tech. Ultimately, that capital helps fund the smartphone sitting right in your pocket or the software you use every single day at work. Somewhere along the supply chain of your daily life, a sovereign wealth fund has very likely invested money. And their reach is just astonishing. They don't just randomly buy stocks, they literally shape entire industries. They are pouring massive capital into renewable energy, they're fueling the current AI boom, backing major semiconductor manufacturing, and they own huge chunks of global logistics networks. Honestly, it is genuinely hard to get through a regular Tuesday without touching something they've invested in. Okay, let's pivot to section 4, the new geopolitical game. So, historically speaking, nations projected their power through, massive armies and giant warships. But today, financial power is just as decisive. Actually, maybe even more so. Instead of deploying troops, a country might just acquire strategic shipping ports, prime real estate, and critical tech firms. It's this quiet, ultra-modern method of exerting global influence. Because in today's super interconnected world, money really is the modern warship. Just imagine two nations fiercely competing for global influence. One might decide to flex its military muscles, but the other is simply quietly buying up all the critical infrastructure and energy networks of its neighbors. Both are gaining massive leverage on the global stage for sure, they're just using entirely different playbooks. Make no mistake, Money has become the ultimate geopolitical instrument. Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, Risks, Rewards, and Tomorrow. Look, we have to be objective here. Sovereign wealth funds do provide enormous global benefits. They inject much-needed long-term capital, they can actually help stabilize markets during big downturns, and they secure generational wealth for their citizens. It's basically responsibly investing today's treasure for tomorrow's generation. But the risks are equally real. When a foreign government outright owns your domestic strategic assets, well, economic motives can easily blur right into political leverage. Because at the end of the day, these funds are ultimately still run by governments. So, while most of us spend our days scrolling through our phones looking at news headlines about local elections and, short-term squabbles, the actual future of the globe is being built right in the background. Trillions of dollars are quietly shifting around in this massive parallel system. Countries are competing right now, not just through regular daily diplomacy, but through vast investment portfolios and decades-long financial strategies. They are literally building the infrastructure of tomorrow before most of the public even realizes the game is being played. And that brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. The next time you hear a quick passing mention on the news about a foreign government investing billions overseas, I want you to remember the true scale of what is actually happening. It's not just finance. It's a calculated vision of the future. Because, as we've seen, some of the most powerful forces shaping our world don't make headlines, they make investments. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden systems behind money, power, and the global economy with us today, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications. We bring you deep dive finance and economics explainers just like this one every single week. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.